Hello everyone, welcome to the Biomes channel. Today we're doing a Crazy Craft Updated Modpack review. I've done this one in the past, but I'm doing it again because it updated a lot in the past 2 years. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into this. The entire purpose of the modded pack is to focus on Chaos Awakens. Chaos Awakens is a mod that adds in orespawn creatures such as the enchanted golden apple cow, and also the stink bug over here, along with some structures and previous mob creatures that inspired or are directly from orespawn themselves. I don't actually recall there being a carrot pig, but I think a carrot pig is just a reference to the fact that there's golden apple cows. One of the returning boss mobs so far is the Hercules beetle, and the Hercules beetle is a really cool boss mob that has an updated texture, updated animation, and let's just say it's just a little different from how it was before. The attacks and all that stuff are also changed just a little bit just to make it more refreshed and much more new within this mod pack. Here we have the Robo Jeffries, Robo Sniper, Robo Pounder, and Robo Warrior. And as you can see, they are really refreshed, and the Robo Jeffrey in particular has had an insane overhaul. Chaos Awakens is still missing a whole lot of their creatures, of course. However, they have shown images of some of their upcoming creatures, and they look really, really sick. So if you stay with this mod enough, you can see those new boss mobs when they come out. They also have ant dimensions where if you right click on an ant, you can go to their dimension. Some of them are not implemented just yet. However, we'll get into the dimensions a little bit later in this video. And to craft Big Bertha, by the way, you may have noticed that it requires different items from different creatures, which Chaos Awakens currently doesn't have. They actually use some of the creatures such as ice and fire creatures, or worm roost creatures, or Mousie's mobs mod creatures, which we will cover some of those later in the video. Those creatures drop certain items that will have Big Bertha parts. That is how they will use Chaos Awakens alongside some of these other mods in order to make Big Bertha, which per reference, this is what it looks like within this mod pack. So one thing that you start out with is the FTB quest book. Now this will show you all of the different quests within this mod pack. They are divided into these 5 sections: challenges, goals, Chaos Awakens, Leavenite, and technology. Challenges contains a bunch of the different challenges from across a bunch of different mods, consisting of challenges such as defeating certain bosses, getting certain armor sets, and also just conquering certain dimensions. At first, I was going to go through each of them individually. However, that's a lot of boring information that you probably do not want to hear from me because it will take a long time to go in depth with each mod. Goals are more like side quests that basically cover some of the more smaller mods such as guns, another form of backpack, the luggage buddy, a way to make indestructible armor, and also just some more minor mods that adds in smaller things to the game. The Chaos Awaken and the Leavenite sections are pretty self-explanatory. They are the sections based around those 2 mods, and Chaos Awakens is obviously, like I said before, a really expansive mod. Leavenite is also really big on its own right, but I do cover a little bit of that later in the video. And finally, technology is basically mechanism, a bunch of the different mechanism stuff that you can do within this mod pack. So that's essentially the gist of the quest line. Alright, with everything said regarding the quest, let's get into the biomes. All the biomes we go and Biomes of Plenty are both in this. This is referred to as a stone forest because you can see like the different spires of stone. And then there's Biomes of Plenty, which also adds in a couple of biomes here and there. And Chaos Awakens, along with a couple of other mods, adds in a little touch here and there to certain biomes, such as these cherry blossom trees. Alright, so we're gonna go some of the structures. So one of these structures is a tower with a waste on top of them. I forgot the exact mod. There's gonna be a lot of dungeon mods within this mod pack, and I cannot keep track of which dungeon mod has which dungeon, but there are a lot of dungeons within this, and this is one of them with a waste on top of them. And across the way here, you have a roguelite dungeon. There is a mod that adds in some of the roguelite dungeons, and if you're not familiar with them, basically what these are is that they are a series of floors from 1 to 5, the 5 one being a bottom floor that has red, netherish theme, and the monsters will scale appropriately to their certain difficulty rating, with the bottom one having skeletons with diamond armor and such. There are also catacombs and spider caves from the Quark mod as well. You'll also find spawners with a chest underneath them, along with obsidian on top of them. That's just another thing that you'll find within the caves. Tinker's Contract adds in these little slime islands in the sky. These slime islands spawn in, of course, slimes. So the Sky Village typically spawns higher than this, but this one spawns a little low to the ground. Just a nice, cool Sky Village. This right here is an illager castle, and there's a bunch of illager structures around the area, but one thing I want to show you is that this actually uses a create handle that you enter in, and there's a bunch of different stuff from different mods, such as supplementaries, Quark, etc., that make up some of these structures within your world. So they kind of utilize either a data pack or some sort of mod that utilizes a bunch of the mods within this to make some really cool structures. There are a bunch of other smaller structures around the area. This is from Valhalla structures. This adds in like little ruined forts, little ruined like towers, and it adds some more generic structures to Minecraft. And there's also another structure I want to show you right here, which basically there is a underground village. So there's underground villages within this mod pack as well, as you can see right here. It's a really, really cool village. And so you can see right here, you have more rooms. This branches off into different corridors. You have like a blacksmith area here with some chests. This right here is an example of an apotheosis boss. Apotheosis adds in a bunch of enchantments known as affixes to your items, and this guy drops some really cool stuff when you kill him, I believe. And here are some examples of some really cool underground dungeons. There are a lot of underground dungeons within this mod pack that I'm losing track of which mod adds in which dungeon exactly, but here's some good examples of really cool dungeons. Here is a Mauzi's dungeon, this Ferris Rotnot. So this is in underground areas. This right here is an example of a repurposed structure. A repurposed structure is basically a structure that exists within vanilla Minecraft, but is reused in another sense. So this is a plains igloo. There are a lot of examples of this that you'll see throughout this video, such as nether boats and ruined portals, etc. You also have a chance of running into some TARDISes. This is an example of a Young's Better Mineshaft. There's also Young's Better Dungeons, and also Young's Better Stronghold, along with Young's Better Caves for the cave generation. So there's a lot of good Young's mods that adds in really insane structures and generation to your world. Though there are some other mods that have the same kind of mineshaft style, but just in a different like form, like this Prismarine mineshaft. And finally, because this mod pack needed more dungeons in this entire thing, we have When Dungeons Arise, because the When Dungeons Arise is a crazy dungeon mod, and of course, we needed this mod inside of a mod pack that has already so many insane dungeons as it is. Let's move on to some of the mobs. There are ice and fire dragons along with a variety of different other ice and fire creatures, and it is not the only mod that adds in dragons with this mod pack. There is also Worm Roost. Worm Roost adds in a plethora of dragons that you can ride and tame along with ice and fire, and both of these mods add in really cool creatures. Also, the Leviathan is also the replacement for the Kraken, so you do need to kill it at least once in order to create Big Bertha. As you can tell with the Ferris Rotnot, Mauzi's mod is also in this as well. There are a couple of challenges regarding this, and there are a couple of new bosses and creatures that you'll find around the world. Alex Mobs mod is also in this, which adds in these cool mobs around the area, and also mobs like this kangaroo. So, I don't know, a boss mob, again, a void worm. It goes through portals and attacks you, and the way to summon it is to throw its child off into the void. And that is how you summon the Void Worm. Along with the Alice Mobs mod, you have Better Animals, which adds in these really cool animals to Minecraft. And essentially, they're really, really in-depth, like animals such as goats, coyotes, songbirds, and all that stuff. Basically normal animals for the most part. This is an example of another Ice and Fire mob. They don't just add in dragons, they add in a couple of mythical mobs, such as the Siren, the Death Worm, and a bunch of other little cool fantasy mobs. The hats mod is in here, where basically, if you see an animal with a hat, kill it, because guess what? You get the hat, and you can get a collection of hats, and even wear one for yourself. Oh yeah, and there's also a mod called Duckery that adds in ducks. There are some new villager variants. So as you see this guy right here, if you could stop running away, stop running. Okay, he is a storyteller. To protect your village, you have a new golem known as the clay golem and guard villagers. And in raids, you have a bunch more illager variants from It Takes a Pillage or illager invasions, etc. Along with Daleks from the TARDIS mod. Cataclysm is a mod that adds in more bosses to your world with boss music and a very unique attack pattern. Unfortunately, because this is an older version of the mod, there's only 3 boss variants along with a couple of mini bosses and other smaller creatures. This right here, what you see on the screen, is basically the extent of all of the different creatures you can find in the world. A couple of new Big Bertha parts that you can get from these creatures. Ars Nova is a magic mod that allows you to tame familiars. Using a ritual of binding near a familiar, such as these guys right here, you can tame them, and I advise you to look at what they do before you do this. This mod not only adds in familiars, but it also adds in a couple of new hostile mobs to your world. It's a really in-depth magic mod, and it does have some insane spells, so I do advise you to look into it if you haven't already. There's also a mod called Champions that adds in new special variants to certain creatures, and it gives them certain buffs, which makes them harder to deal with, and they drop their own special loot. Oh yeah, and of course, Herobrine is a possible boss through the Awakens bosses mod. Alright, now time for the dimensions. This is the Ulvamodium mining dimension. If you mine down, you can see that this is just an entire world filled with stone, ores, and a bunch of other things. This is all the modding dimension as well, called the Other. This dimension is a very similar landscape to the Nether, but it also has a surface to it, and it has some desert-like features to it, and it does have a lot of the Nether structures, such as repurposed structures, but it is basically just a simple dimension that you can go to using the information on the screen right now. So go venture out to some of these dimensions. This is the Applied Energy 6 spatial storage. Yeah, Applied Energy 6 is in this. This is a blue skies dimension known as the Ever Bright, and this has a counterpart dimension, which we'll get to later, but this dimension has a mini boss and a regular boss. The regular boss is in a structure that's very similar to the one on the screen right now, and the mini boss is actually a very similar structure to a tower, which you can see right here, and the way to access the boss is to get keys from a chest and open up the boss room. Keep in mind that only Blue Sky's weapons only works within these two dimensions, with the other dimension being the Ever Dawn dimension. And the Ever Dawn dimension is a darker dimension, so obviously Ever Bright is a very bright blue dimension. This is a more crimson, red, purplish dimension. And this dimension has another boss that is different in structure. It is a tree that you're looking for, while the other one is a greenish building. And they have a very similar tower design. So it is a really cool set of dimensions that you should check out later. This is the crystal dimension with crystal trees, crystallized cows, crystal carrot pigs, and apple cows from the Apple Cow mod. This is another one of those ant dimensions, which we're gonna cover some more right here. This right here is what's supposed to be the Danger Isles, but the Danger Isles dimension is not finished right now. This is the Mining Paradise dimension, and you saw this dimension a little bit ago from the Red Ant teleportation, and the Red Ant dimension, or the Mining Paradise dimension, has a bunch of dinosaurs, a bunch of Jurassic styled, and a really pretty set of biomes, and is an ideal spot for mining as well. And finally, this is the Village Paradise dimension, another ant dimension that when it gets to nighttime, you can see that there actually are a lot of Robo Warriors that spawn in. So this is a really cool dimension that will help you find some of the Robo Warriors, and of course, go to explore some of the villages. This is the Lantern dimension for the Lemonite mod. Lemonite adds everything from new dungeons to new crazy bosses. The goal of the mod is to have a totally new experience while playing Minecraft, and it is a bit of a beta mod. However, there are a couple of new biomes, and the quest line that is shown here will help you a lot with discovering how to play the Lemonite mod as it is right now. And there's a couple of things to mine, a couple of things to explore, so there's just a couple of things that you can do within this dimension already. Mystic Britannia adds in a dimension called Alfheim, and Alfheim has a new set of armor that you can get on this dimension along with new materials. This is mostly a dimension that you're supposed to mine materials for, but it has a really cool set of Britannia stuff and a lot of Britannia inspired biomes. So it is a really good place to explore, but there are some really dangerous creatures within this dimension, so be very careful as there are a lot of armored zombies within this dimension. So in the TARDIS mod, you can go to the moon, and the moon has a bunch of cool structures around the area, around roughly 3 structures. There's no real monsters that spawn in, but it's just a nice area to explore within the TARDIS mod. And the TARDIS mod does require you to wear like a spacesuit to enter the moon, so don't just expect to just arrive in the moon without a spacesuit and just walk around willy-nilly. And last but not least, it is the one and only Twilight Forest. And the Twilight Forest has a series of bosses, from the Naga to the Lich to a bunch of other routes that you can take, and you have to fight the bosses in a specific order all the way up to the final castle, which is not implemented once again. And because this is an outdated version of the Twilight Forest, it is not updated to the current standard. A slightly outdated version, but at the same time, it's almost the exact same, with some minute differences within the textures and also the design of certain areas. The Nether is overhauled to have some biomes from all the biomes you go, biomes of plenty, and also have some Nether ores, and along with some Tinker's ores, and a lot of Nether specific ores, such as ores from Wormroost, the Red Geode, and there's a couple new structures, such as the bosses mentioned before. Cataclysm has a couple of bosses within this dimension, so there's a lot to do within the Nether, plus a lot of dungeon mods that adds in a bunch of stuff, and repurposed structures. So a lot of things to do within the Nether, and it is going to be really interesting to see how you survive within this overhauled dimension. And of course, there is the End dimension, which the main boss fight, the Ender Dragon, is probably the most unchanged that I've seen in a hot second. Yeah, I don't think there's actually anything new with the Ender Dragon fight. Fossilized Endermen, so they're just kind of there, and you have like Gobber stuff here, Gobber Orb. However, they do have some outer end biomes, plus they do have all the biomes you go biomes, along with a couple of other things added on to make the End dimension look a little pretty on the outside of the End Island. And it is a really revamped End that I recommend that you guys should explore for yourself. Now, I left out so many mods that you guys need to explore this for yourself to see what craziness can happen. Because I was taking a look at some of the mods and I'm baffled by how many I missed. For example, I didn't realize that mods like the Graveyard and Sons of the Sin were in this that adds in their own respective structures or bosses, etc. And so there's just many other mods that you guys should check out for yourself within this mod pack and explore this mod pack to your heart's content. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and goodbye.